Have you ever wondered why the priests wear a chasuble? Other than just having an extra layer of clothes that makes it awful hot. There is a reason behind it. The chasuble represents the virtues of charity, love, and mercy. The three virtues that have to influence everything that we do. Love, charity, mercy have to influence every action that the priest does. Whether here at Mass, dealing with people, our whole life has to be a charitable life. And not only is it a reminder for the priests, it's a reminder for each person here today that they too are to put on charity as their chasuble, as their cover. Each of us were anointed as priest, prophet, and king when we were baptized. We were all called to the priesthood of the laity. Therefore, each one of us is called to be merciful, as Jesus asks us to be in our reading today. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Because if you really look at it, if you're really merciful, really charitable, at times that's enough sacrifice to be charitable to others. But Jesus also tells us in the reading here that we have to be careful, because it's very easy to fall into the opposite extreme of charity, of mercy. It's very easy to fall in to be judgmental, judging others that they're doing right or doing wrong. Only God can do that. But we see here in the reading how Jesus' disciples were hungry, and they were walking through a wheat field, picking heads of wheat and eating them. It was a violation of the Sabbath rules. Sabbath was the day there was no work was to be done. And the Pharisees who saw Jesus and his disciples started to make a judgment. They saw them breaking the law, and that's all they cared about. They didn't see what they were doing through a lens of charity, that they were hungry. Therefore, it was something they could do to satisfy their own hunger. But yet, these Pharisees were judgmental in the way they looked at these people, at the followers of Christ. How many times in our own lives do we become judgmental because we see others doing something that we don't think is right? That's something that goes against what we believe, without knowing what's going behind their actions, what's their story. I know a lot of times when I'm hearing confessions, people will come up, will confess, "Father, I missed Mass." We know we're supposed to go to Mass. But the question you ask next is, why did you miss Mass? Some people will say, "Father, I missed Mass because I had to stay home to care for my sick spouse or my mother or my kids. And there was nobody else to take care of them. I couldn't leave them alone." Knowing that, where charity has taken root, charity overrides the commandment to go to Mass. There's no sin involved. But if you were to confess that same sin and say, "I had to stay home to take care of my sick child or my sick parent," but in the back, in your mind, your motivation was, "I don't really want to go to Mass today, so I'll use this as an excuse." That's where the sin comes in. It all comes down to our motivation. Why do we do the things that we do? And that's what Jesus is telling us here. We have to look at why we do what we do. Why do we come to Mass? Why do we celebrate the sacraments? Why do we help others? Is it just to make ourselves feel good? Or is it a greater good involved praising God and sharing his love with others? Jesus tells us that the greatest commandment you can do is to love God above all things and to love your neighbor as yourself. If we try to live that, if we try to be charitable, if we try to be merciful to others, it's going to cause a change in our lives. It's going to cause us to change the way we act, the way we treat people, the way we see the world. And I think that's what our world today, our country needs today. We need to see things through the eyes of mercy, the eyes of love, instead of being quick to jump to a conclusion or to be judgmental. After all, Jesus says, I desire mercy and not sacrifice.